Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I hope you haven't been too tired from too many panels. I don't know if this is the last one or if there are any further ones. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for attending here and for all our panelists for being part of this panel and making the effort, especially some of you traveling from abroad. Our panel today focuses on corporate responsibility and what corporates can do in order to provide and have a positive impact in society. I would like to say that this is the first time that I've been speaking on behalf of an organization that's very close to my heart, the Hellenic Initiative, and hopefully we can tell you 2-3 things of what we are doing, because there are a lot of things that the Hellenic Initiative is doing in Greece. And maybe I can share a little bit of a personal story and how it all came about, that I'm actually leading a program that is called the Corporate Ambassador Program of the Hellenic Initiative, and how that relates to corporate responsibility and social impacts of corporates. Being in a modern market economy and a capitalist economy, I think the key driver for corporations is pursuit of capital, balance sheets, profits, dividends, growth. Hopefully at some point in time, and I happen to realize that from a very personal family story and connection, we come about to realize what corporations can do to provide more than just potential dividends and profits to shareholders and various stakeholders, how they can impact and provide a better good to the society, to the economy, and how that can be a catalyst and a driver for business for themselves. So I don't want to keep this too long, and I know you've heard a lot of speeches from a lot of people, but I just wanted to say that hopefully today we can have an interactive panel. You can hear from our panelists. So let me start by introducing everyone. We have Dr. Ludek Sekyra, who traveled and just finally made it. Thank you so much for being here. Michael Printzos is also from the Hellenic Initiative. Mr. Spanoudakis from Stoiximan. And we also have, and we're very happy to have you from the Laskaridis Foundation, actually someone that can tell you not what corporates do, but what foundations do in Greece, representative. So thank you very much. Please feel free to ask as many questions as you want. Please feel free to interact, and nothing further from me at this point. Mr. Sekyra, if you would like to say a couple of things of your organization and how do you view corporate responsibility and what impact it has, so we can get, first of all, an international view and not a view of someone that is actually domestic and local. Thank you again.
Okay, above all, thank you for invitation. I thank the organizers. My company is the leading development company in Czech Republic, and we are active across the region, Central Europe, Czech Republic. We have under development more than 1 million square meters, above all in Prague, in the broader city center. We are working on transformation to big former cargo railway stations. There will be headquarters, the largest bank in the country, leading financial institution, big residential district for 12,000 people. So this is a unique transformation of the city after 50 years of the communism and after several years since the revolution. Regarding the development in my country, so we went through the huge transformation in the last 30 years. There are 3 ways of transformation. First one is the change in constitutional system after fall of communism. It took approximately 2-3 years. Then is the economical transformation. It took approximately 10 years, the privatization. There will be a lot of the foreign investors. And the third type of the transformation, this is the transformation of the civil society. And this is most difficult, transformation of the stereotypical thoughts. And this is the task for generation. And we decided, our company, we established the foundation, it's the Sakura Foundation, And this foundation is focused on two main areas. First one is the civil society. So we support several civic initiatives, several civic movements in the Czech Republic, but we also close the partnership with New York Times, and we are since last 3 years one of the main sponsors of Athens Democracy Forum. So we trying also support the civil society internationally, and we will this year establish a global civic forum. It will be foundation according to the British law, which should support the civil society internationally. Second main task, my foundation is education and the academic sphere. I have the partnership with Oxford University and Harvard University. We established the student center at the Oxford University, and we plan several conferences, we chain of conferences focus on the political and moral philosophy. So I see as my main contribution to the social responsibility to support the civil society and academic sphere, education, because I think this is most important for liberal democracy. This is very valuable for us because we lost, or my parents spent many years under communism and protectionist liberal society against the populism, xenophobic nationalism is, from my point of view, also the role of entrepreneurs, not only the role of politicians.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sekyra. I would like now to give the floor to another doctor of our panel, Dr. Angeliki Kosmopoulou. I think it's important to get your perspective about how foundations operate and actually how they contribute, and we would like to hear very much of what you have done as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the invitation as well. Well, I represent the AC Laskaridis Charitable Foundation, a relatively new foundation established back in 2015 in Athens, which works on 4 key areas: the marine environment and the support of people who make a living out of the sea, the promotion of micro-entrepreneurship as an antidote to the rising unemployment in Greece through the People's Trust, that is a brand created and supported by us, which is a distinct entity, social welfare, as well as programs in areas such as education, heritage, democracy, and transparency. Now, as a foundation, our topic today is corporate social responsibility, and there are things that we have, like a brand, a business and a foundation have in common when it comes to giving, and then there are things that are different. A brand, for a brand, CSR is something that reflects back on its identity, its marketing, its positioning, its turnover, its place in the market. For a foundation, it's its core business, it's its main mission. So for a foundation like ours, giving is a priority. This is what we were created to do. But although people, when listening to the term giving, most people think of giving in terms of money, of funding. But funding is actually a small part of what a foundation does. It's an important thing. It's something that has a direct impact on the environment, on the stakeholders, but it's just the beginning. And more, the world of philanthropy calculates and talks about its metrics on the basis of impact. It is what we do that makes a difference, and not anymore how much we spend. And this is a trend worldwide. We use money as a beginning, but it's just the beginning. It's a very complex, philanthropy has become very complicated and very exciting in recent years, because it works with the public sector, it works with the private for-profit sector, but it has a place of its own, and this is why sometimes we call it the third sector. We work on a number of levels, and we work starting out with identifying needs. Our number one priority is to listen very attentively, and listen not only to things that are being said, but listen to things that are not said regularly. So we have to identify a need, and then find a way to fill that need in the best possible way. And we work with the people that we support, not for them only. It used to be that foundations would write off checks and they would know better, but it doesn't really happen. We want to create new leaders. We want our programs to have an impact on societies, and we want to create people who are able to solve the problems on their own. Now, our foundation, as I said, works primarily on the marine environment, and although sometimes we have our own metrics on calculating impact, which is a hard thing in philanthropy, but sometimes it's tiny stories that make a difference. Back in September of 2017, we were on site on a tour on the Cyclades, and our educational team was working with school kids on the island of Kimolos. And these were adolescents who were exposed to an environmental program for the first time. And after we completed the session of an hour and a half, one of the girls of the program said, "Oh, this is so fascinating. What type of professional does the work that we're doing now?" And we said it's a marine biologist or a marine scientist. And she turned to us and said, "Oh, this is so exciting. I would love to become a marine scientist." Guess what? A year later, we go back to the island, and she has already succeeded in her exams, and she's starting to become a marine scientist. And for a girl coming from a family where nobody has ever attended university, this is a small but a very distinct measure of impact. So our core program is a program called Sea Change that runs on 10 islands of the Cyclades, and it works on many levels. It starts out with cleaning the environment, with shore and underwater cleanings, and then it also moves ahead to do programs in the school, citizen science programs for adolescents. It collects data which are necessary if you want to solve a problem. It works with the municipalities, because unless you work with the local people, nothing is going to have a lasting effect. You don't want to be there as an outsider. You don't want to be there, somebody who seems to be more important than the local community, who has more money and is better connected. You want to work with the people, and you want people to realize that you are acting as a catalyst in reality, that you are helping people by providing them ideas, solutions, and sometimes funding to make their life better. People are not going to change unless they own the problem. If they own the problem, they own the solution as well. So we really want to work with the people. And this has been we're now in our third year, and this has been a very successful project. And I think it is so because, first of all, it caters a major need, that is environmental protection. We are the only foundation in Greece that focuses in this area and that tries to take environmental work on the next level. There are several NGOs working in that field, but there is no real catalyst. And another privilege that we, like all other foundations, have is the privilege of convening people. A solution cannot come from, and especially on a problem so complicated as marine pollution in Greece, cannot come from one entity or from one stakeholder. Solutions necessitate multiple partners. And one of the things that we have done is that we have been instrumental in creating the Network for Marine Protection, which now consists of 29 organizations, fellow foundations, research centers, academics, who all work together to achieve common goals. Sometimes people come to us and ask, you're doing such great work, but why the environment? Aren't there more pressing needs than the environment? There are so many people who are looking for jobs. There are so many people in Greece at the time of crisis who need to have improved access, like to health or to education. No institution can do everything for everyone. For us, the environment is very important because the environment does not only offer immediate solutions to our planet, that is our home, but it can also serve as the basis for development. We view the marine world as an excellent beginning for us, especially in a country like Greece, to make our life better. So we also, beyond short cleanups and beyond working with school kids, we take it one step further because we want to explain to people that in a country that has, that is so closely associated with the sea throughout the years, we need to make an improved living out of the sea. And protecting the sea is just the beginning. So we work on areas like circular economy. We collect data. We try to bring people together who are doing similar things. We try to explore solutions in the direction of not only recycling, but upcycling and reusing material, because this is an international trend. And we're trying to find solutions starting from very small things that can make a real difference. And if there is just one thing I would like to say in closing, is that we try to work on a number of principles. Number one, we want to start by listening really attentively. I said that in the beginning as well. Second, we want to put purpose before profit. It is very easy to think that the fact that you can provide funding makes you special. It is important, but it's really not enough. Also, we try to use all our non-monetary resources. A foundation has a lot of power that can be used towards advocacy. We can put more pressure in order to get to provide solutions. And this is where we need to work with other stakeholders in the same area. Also, we need to empower communities. I talked about that before. We need to make them part of a solution, and we want them to own the solution. We want other people to make things happen with our help. We are happy and we feel a sense of accomplishment when we know that we have really helped people to make the change. We're only one agent of change. We cannot do everything. So this is another metric of ours. And finally, build great networks. All of us together can make a real difference. And unfortunately, Greece does not have a culture of collaboration. We know it, we try to defy it. We're doing, through the network, I think we're doing a good job on that. But we need to work to identify and to inspire all other agents to work for a common goal. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A lot of things in a couple of minutes, so great to hear. I would like to pass the floor to Mr. Spanoudakis from Stoiximan, and specifically I would like to ask you, apart from what you're going to tell us today, for me two quite interesting questions about how you believe that companies like yourselves can have a positive impact in our society and economy, and special projects that you have been involved with that are of particular, if you want, not only of importance, but actually something that is not ordinary is extraordinary. Thank you.
Thank you. I think I will start by saying how inspirational it is to be able to participate in this discussion in such a great hall, the Hall of Philosophers, as it is called. And I think it is a great opportunity. Let me please start with giving you a brief description of what Stoiximan, the Stoiximan Group is. We're an online company, very young company. We started operations in 2012. We have grown to operate now under the Stoiximan brand in Greece and in Cyprus, and under the Betano brand in 4 European countries, namely Romania, Germany, Austria, and shortly we will start operations in Portugal. Fast-growing company. I think we are one of the fastest-growing game tech companies in Europe, and most likely one of the fastest-growing companies in Greece. Why this has happened? We focus very much on the product that we offer, on the unique experience that we want to offer to our customers, and on technology. like any other online company. I didn't mention that we're strictly an online company. We're depending on technology, and technology provides a better service and a better product to our customers. One element that characterizes us, and this is a deliberate decision, we decided to base all our operations for Greece, Cyprus, and all our other European operations, other countries, and the countries that we're going to expand to in the future, in Greece. I think this is very important in a period when Greece suffers most likely one of its worst economic crises in the last 100 years, that we will provide jobs and job opportunities of high quality to young people. I have to tell you that we employ currently more than 500 people, 540 people, in 2 locations, in Athens and in Thessaloniki. Obviously, we have some smaller locations in the European countries. And the average age of our employees is 32. So we employ young people. We give the opportunity for young people to create, and we give young people the opportunity to stay at home and offer. So we create the brain gain concept for Greece, rather than an opposing to the brain drain phenomenon that has absorbed and forced many people, many scientists, to expatriate. So in essence, this is the type of company we are. We have leading positions in Greece, Cyprus, and the countries we operate. And this is a result of our success. Now, I consider our conscientious decision to employ and be based in Greece, despite the adverse economic calculation, that this is part of our CSR commitment to the Greek society. Second, obviously, the corporate responsibility, I think it is not, and it cannot be just a pillar in corporate activity. I think it has to be embedded in every company's DNA. Returning back to society, part of the value, part of the wealth that a company generates, I think it is not important, it is a must. It has to happen. It is part of any company's brand. It becomes part of any company's brand. So I will elaborate a little bit more on the other programs that we have elected to be active upon. We have a program which we call Mikri Heroes, the young heroes. Obviously, it focuses on children, younger people, at school age, elementary school. And we focus on locations which are very isolated. And obviously, these children do not have the same opportunities like the children in urban areas, like the children in Athens and Thessaloniki. So we have the first element of this program, which we call the Young Heroes Travel. So we organize trips for them to institutions, to visit institutions, educational museums, educational institutions here in Athens, and we allow them the opportunity, we offer them the opportunity, we participate in offering that opportunity to them, so that they become, they understand, they see things that they would never see in their lives otherwise. The second element of our program is the young children, the young heroes learn. And what does that include? We have so far organized 20,000 children of school age to visit museums in Athens and in Thessaloniki. And these are children from areas which are less advantaged areas. So we give them the opportunity to see things again which may have been more difficult or impossible otherwise. The third element, we're a company that deals in the greater sector of sports. So we could not, let's say, be successful unless we engaged in an extensive program supporting sports and athletes in sports that are not very popular and they do not have the means to practice the sport otherwise at a higher level. We have, in this program so far, supported 400 athletes, and this program, I think, has become a lot more known by our selection of athletes to support them in the Adopt an Athlete program that the Hellenic Olympic Committee created back in 2014. And this program allowed some of the athletes that we supported to participate in the Olympic Games and win 3 gold medals and 1 bronze medal. I think they are the ambassadors of Greece in the international sports arena, and I think that their success made all Greeks feel proud about it, and our support and their skills and their will to compete created this result. So in essence, what I'm saying is sport, football is very popular, basketball is very popular, but there are so many other sports, and you can see, by supporting sports that are not so popular, you give the opportunities to all young people to excel and deliver a performance at the Olympic level, which is going to be, which has been and is going to be exceptional. So in the Olympics of 2020, which is next year in Tokyo, we're supporting 20 athletes and 2 national teams, the water polo teams of men and women. We hope that they will qualify in the Olympic finals in the Olympics to participate. Without our, some of these young people, without our support, would never had the opportunity to qualify to that level. So adopting an athlete and sponsoring his training program, supporting his road to the Olympic competition is something that I think most of the Greek companies should do because we have so many athletes still that they don't have this support. So corporate responsibility, summarizing Stoiximan. First is giving the opportunity to young people to excel in the professional arena. Second, supporting young children, the young heroes, as we call them, τους μικρούς ήρωες, to learn more than what life provides them opportunity to do so. And thirdly, supporting athletes to perform at the highest level and support them on the way to represent Greece and the sport at the highest level. These are the elements that we have elected to be active upon, and we will continue expanding on those. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Spanoudakis. Thank you very much. And congratulations for all the initiatives you've taken. Well, last and not least, one of my own, Michael Printzos from the Hellenic Initiative. Michael.
Thank you, Nicholas. First of all, let me start by saying that I'm very proud for being invited to this panel. I mean, I want to thank the Simeon Tsomokos and the Delphi Economic Forum team for inviting us for yet another year. We've been with them since day one, and we're very proud of all the accomplishments and everything we see. And since we're talking about everything we see, I would also like to say that I'm very humbled by standing in this room, surrounded by such beauty and history. And I think this is one of these moments in life that, lifeless objects can, say so many things without even whispering a word in your ear. So this is phenomenal for me. Now, for the lucky of you who don't know me, I'm Michael, and I'm the program director of THI. THI being a diaspora organization, we're trying to mobilize diaspora Greeks all around the world. So far, we have chapters in the US, which is where we started, in Australia, and very recently we launched a chapter in Canada. So far, since 2012, we're also young as an organization. We have donated almost 15 million US dollars in either crisis relief or economic development. So we've worked with like 50 or 60 different programs and NGOs trying to solve for different problems. And since we're talking about problem solving, I wanted to just, start my address by picking something from the title, which is about corporate versus social values. And running the danger of, sounding like a Plato scholar, I want to start by saying that I don't believe there is distinction between the two. I think there is only one set of values, driven by ethos, by hard work, by problem solving, by powerful teams and good leaders that can actually provide the solutions that we're looking for, both on the corporate world as well as in society. I think as a society we have moved miles away from, what Milton Friedman said 10 years or more than 10 years ago, when he said that, the only thing that corporates should be socially responsible for is the maximization of the profits by better utilizing the resources. I think we live in a different reality, in a different world. I'm very happy that we live in a different world. And I think throughout these years, there has been a certain process that I was lucky enough through my job in THI to witness also in Greece. So to start with, I think, and going back to what Milton Friedman once said, we had that thesis with depending whether or not you were on a capitalistic or communistic kind of environment. You either had the state or the corporate world telling you, sit down, we know, what the solution looks like. You don't have to worry about anything. We will provide everything for you and your family. You're going to be happy. Just, applaud us. That didn't work, at least to the extent that, corporates or the state wanted to work, because problems were becoming more complex. And I think that thesis in the beginning gave birth to another antithesis, and that was, the sudden outburst of the non-profits movement, where you saw small or larger teams of non-profits trying to solve for these problems by more or less, coming back to that thesis with an anathema, saying that you guys are, the ones that created all these problems. You are polluting the environment. You are not creating the jobs. You are destroying our neighborhoods, which was the other extreme of that pendulum. As this thesis and antithesis kind of balance was growing and growing, in the middle, what was also growing was a mistrust between the two worlds. So the ones would not trust the others. For the ones, the others were the corrupt ones. For the ones, the others were the ones that couldn't actually operate in an efficient way or handle money in an efficient way. So we had all these anecdotes coming from one part of the world or the other, depending on where you lied. As these guys were having fun, discussing things and debating with each other, what actually was happening was that the problems were becoming more complex. So, for example, you started, discussing about climate change. You started discussing about the refugee crisis. You started discussing about youth unemployment on a global scale. And that complexity was either because the size of the problem started becoming really, really large, or the problem itself had an inherited complexity that was very difficult to tackle one of the two worlds alone. So that complexity gave birth to a really interesting osmosis process which brought the two worlds together. So there was that time in history that, they realized the weaknesses in solving for these problems, and they said, let's come together, let's sit on the table, and let's see whether us, the corporates, and you, the citizens world, the non-profits, can find interesting solutions to these problems. And interesting enough, at least, they started addressing these things, and I think in many cases they found solutions to these problems. For example, and just saying something which I know from THI's perspective, we have a program called Regeneration. We started that like 5 years ago. It was about youth unemployment and creating internships. And one of the anchor reversers besides THI in that program was the Coca-Cola Corporation. So we did something with Coca-Cola as a foundation, and we managed to create almost 800 internships working with 280 companies around Greece. And not only that, we managed to offer back to NGOs 15,000 hours of basic skills that they lacked. So, for example, I had situations in my life that a big NGO in Greece would actually, they would like to distribute dry food aid in large quantities, in large scales. They didn't know how to do that. What better way in order to do that by attracting a talent from Coca-Cola, who's basically, like a superstar in distribution, and help them by sitting there for 1 week in order to solve that problem. And that's just one example of this. I mean, among yourselves, I've seen familiar faces and friends. Nick Papas, the president of THI Australia, they're doing something similar with the internship program. They're actually bringing Greeks from Greece, working with for-profit companies in Australia, training them and then bringing them back here in order to find a job. Peter, our executive director, knows that as well. Mike Manatos, a lobbyist in Washington, he can tell you about, how you can actually build public-private partnerships and bring the philanthropy world in that scheme as well. Valia is doing that with the elderly, Paul is doing that with microfinance. So all these solutions are not just textbook stuff or something we can actually watch on Netflix. It's actually happening, and it's happening in this country as well. It's not like something that we're actually very distant and we don't have, let's say, our fair stake. So in order to finalize, in order not to actually take too much of your time, I wanted to say that in order to start solving for all these complex problems, we need to start teaming up. Whether we belong on that part of the world or the other, we need to start teaming up. And I think that's why, THI's motto of, Όλοι μαζί, of getting everyone together, it's truly important, because I think but by getting together, it will be the first step by solving for all these problems. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. And let me just add something maybe minor but quite important for me. One of the latest programs and projects that we're involved in for those corporations that are not as large to have their own foundation, as Dr. Angeliki's corporation. We've recently launched a program called the Corporate Ambassador Program of THI, trying to basically create actual corporations that are ambassador of the values and what THI believes. And it's more than just raising money. It's actually giving the opportunity to people that belong in the wider THI family to know about these companies and to actually drive growth. Before we go to any questions, and I hope we do have some from the people here that you found our panel very interesting, I just really wanted to thank Christina. Thank you so much for having all of us here and for actually bringing us in this amazing hall. I actually haven't been here since I was a kid, so how amazing that we're all in Delphi. Thank you so much for that. So I know everyone's tired, but we're very welcome to have any questions. Valia?
Thank you very much for having a very equally balanced panel. It's very important to hear about social responsibility, having one charitable foundation, one CSR department of a large Greek company, a philanthropic organization bringing together many funders, as well as a corporate foundation. My question is regarding the world of CSR. When does a private company decide to make the switch from the CSR department to the creation of a corporate foundation? Thank you.
I think, Mr. Spanoudakis, you're maybe the only one that can answer that. Or, Dr. would you like to take that? I think both of you maybe. Visitors first. Visitors first? Okay.
I think that the corporate world and the world of the private foundation is or non-profit, is very, very connected, because the most of the foundation was created by the entrepreneurs when the entrepreneurs find out that the social responsibility is the integral part, the strategy. And we have in our country also the special experience with communism and with this, what it means if the civil society cannot be free. And I think that this was one of most important reasons for me to support the idea that the open society, society that the people can communicate, that you have the free, unrestricted media, are extremely important. Yes. And it's completely different than in the countries. They have the tradition as the UK or US. So this was one of the main reasons for me to create a private foundation. And what I see in the last 3-4 years, several entrepreneurs in my country doing the same, because we have the fear of what's going on now in Russia, in other countries, this rise of authoritarianism that endangers free development, and also the populism. They are the things that are very dangerous. And I think that the foundation of entrepreneurs should protect the liberal democracy, because this is for us extremely important value.
Thank you for that. Maybe I can give a partial answer as well, and maybe I wanted to be a little bit more blunt and direct. I think the actual tipping point when you actually, as a corporation, and I can certainly speak about our firm, when you have values that go back and you can understand that the key driver to your business is not only profit and gaining money, but is actually being an active member of the economy and the society. You actually understand the impact that you have, not by doing something that's only good for your own stakeholders, but actually good for the economy and the society you're in. I think when management actually understands that, and obviously you need money and a healthy balance sheet to do it, because if you're a distressed company or you don't actually have the means to be able to have a greater impact, because apart from providing funding and giving money, you actually need an infrastructure to be able to have a program as, for example, these companies have. But I think that is the tipping point, when actually management understands that it's a driver for business and it's good for the company itself. I think that when people get more involved, to be more direct. Would you like to add something to that?
Yeah, I would like to add.
Yeah.
I think that CSR is embedded and should be embedded in any company's activity. I would say it should be embedded in the company's DNA at this point in time in the era that we are living in. This is not a pillar of corporate activity. It should reflect the way the employees and management and shareholders obviously think, and it is in essence a must. Part of any company's wealth and value generated should return back to society by means of tangible actions that derive from the company's decisions. So we described to you 3 elements, 3 areas where we have decided to be much more active. We want our employees to understand that. We want our employees to be part of that. We want them to feel proud about the things that we do. And indeed we heard, when we initiated this Young Heroes program, we heard a lot of our employees being very proud that we have been engaging in such an activity. So I think it transforms from just a pillar of corporate activity to being the nature of every company.
Thank you.
American College of Greece, and if that was a tough question, this might even be tougher. So just to keep you on your toes, and it can be answered a million ways, but there's many philosophies of philanthropy and investing, and in Greece, you know, due to the crisis, I think a lot of the investment has been urgent, right? Urgent, real, tangible need. And then there's sustainability, right? And so I'd be curious to hear from each of you how you think about your investing in philanthropy as solving an urgent problem, and then maybe how you think of it is, or do you choose to invest in organizations as a sustainable, with a real sustainability plan? And the way that, in the most simplistic way that, you know, we think of it, I would say is, you know, we look to philanthropy and donors to invest in our endowment, so to invest in a program that is endowed, so it's on for perpetuity, which is a really wonderful way to establish that your vision will live on forever. And then the other, of course, is a constant need, like an annual fund that, you know, funds financial assistance. So that's how we look at it. And I'd really be curious to hear from each of your very different perspectives how you look at both urgency and sustainability.
Perfect. I was just going to say that we're going to keep two words from your statements, last question, urgent and sustainability. For us, the answer is actually quite simple. You basically put a lot of effort, analysis, research in, I don't know if the right word is investing, and it's also just contributing in terms of money, because there's other ways, as Dr. Angeliki Kosmopoulou said, apart from providing money and funding actually organizations. But I think the key to our analysis is providing either funding or finding other ways to support institutions or foundations that provide a solution to both the two pillars you raised, that have an impact on matters that are urgent. In Greece, we had a huge issue with financial crisis, and it was urgent to have programs relating to crisis relief. So we needed job creation. Apart from job creation, we had an issue with brain drain, and we needed actually to have a reason to keep smart and educated people in Greece, and not only having those people trying to find less and subordinated roles in their jobs in other parts of the world. So I think that was crisis relief is the answer to urgency, and sustainability is you need to analyze and find the right, again, institutions, foundations that are not just going to be a shooting star that today they're here and tomorrow they're not, but actually have all of the right components that would allow them to actually provide the impact that they actually have on a perpetual basis, in perpetuity. So perpetuity is something that is a word that I don't usually like to use, because we don't have that certainty in the future. But in essence, a foundation or an organization that will have all the right values, all the right infrastructure, and the right management to be there for the years to come. And I don't want to sound a little bit repetitive, but I think that is something that THI has actually pinpointed very well by providing crisis relief, and also all the other programs that relate to job creation and a reason for people to stay in Greece. So that's, my answer was quite simple, I think. So not that challenging, to be honest, to your question. I don't know if everyone wants to provide an answer to that or have a couple of minutes, but you're more than welcome to.
Just a brief answer from my side. I think that foundations have a mission, operate on the basis of their mission, and their mission is a lasting mission. So all of us, I think, try to work strategically. I would say that in our case, 80% of our work is strategic work, pre-planned work that accomplishes our mission. At the same time, we always need to be alert. Foundations operate, like philanthropy operates as part of a broader system, so we have to be in sync with the environment, and we have to be attentive to people's needs. So we cannot close our ears and eyes to the needs of people before us, especially at crisis. And we have had so many crises in this country over the last decade. But at the same time, if you just respond to crisis, you will never, or you will not as easily fulfill your mission. So I think it has to be like a 80 to 20 or a 70 to 30% approach in order to be able to move on. And I think that the mission here is more important than funding, because funding may change over the years, depending on its source, depending, on, whether it is depending on the source of funding. But you are there, you know, foundation has been established in order to create something and to have a lasting effect. And to me, this is really a priority. And sometimes, even when it comes to like crisis relief, you can find a sustainable way to address crisis. I mean, crisis is, again, not only writing a check. Addressing a crisis sometimes means digging deeper and finding the causes of a problem and working to solve the causes rather than, you know, what is at the surface. So I think it's really both, but it's a matter of percentages.
Thank you so much. I was very politely reminded by Christina that we're out of time and we have a much more important speech. At 9 p.m. we have the Greek Prime Minister speaking. So I would like really to thank everyone for being part of this panel and part of this audience. And it's been an extreme pleasure just being here. So Christina, thank you for having us and thank you for organizing everything. Have a good evening. Thank you.